on. Yeah. Here we go. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come on. Let's go.
What's up, Bri?
We're back.
We're back. Everybody, this is a very special week of Hired. I was gonna do an intro to Bri again, tuck him back in there and bring him out, but I figured I did that last time, and to be honest, I've run out of content.
Yeah, you're on the mic. Well, I mean, we have these rants every day together, so it's just really pulling the curtain back here, right?
Well, and not giving away trade secrets, but we were literally just ranting before we got on, and you're like, man, I gotta hop in the shower before we go on here. So pause this, and we'll pick it back up. But it was literally raw. So are you refreshed? For everyone that doesn't know, Brian spent the week off last week poolside at a cottage with the fam, and he's back now in the saddle.
Yeah, I mean, still waking up at 4:30 with Emmy in the morning, but we're refreshed.
You're back. You're good. And shout out to Spark Studios again. I don't think they get enough props for that intro video. It's pretty sweet. We're working on some more stuff that will be coming soon to add to the production value of the show that's coming. So little teaser there. Brian and I and the studios team has been working on some stuff. So you'll see that come out shortly. As we transition, the topic today comes from something Brian and I saw, I think it's about a month ago, on LinkedIn, and it was about essentially, I don't want to use the word bounty, but like you call it crowdsource recruiting, kind of what it is. Brian, set the stage in terms of what we saw, and then we'll get into the conversation.
Yeah, it was funny. I think you were mentioning, I think I came across it in my feed just because you commented or liked on it. And essentially someone posted that, hey, we're hiring this person. I can't even remember what it was. $20,000 to whoever can introduce me. All you got to do is introduce me. And it just created a firestorm. So whether how it makes you feel, if it's right or if it's wrong, I think it did its job in being a real chaos agent. Like there was comments going, angry recruiters, people hiring, lots of interaction. So I think, in terms of the algorithm on LinkedIn, his post was brilliant. Mixed feelings on, is it the right thing to do? Is it the wrong thing to do? I mean, that's up for debate.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It was kind of like, I think we were talking that day, and I was like, man, are you seeing this? Like, this is blowing up. Like, people are feeling a whole lot of feels about this, and essentially, someone they were probably having some challenges identifying. I think it was a VP level position in their organization, and they took to LinkedIn and the social network and said, hey, like, I'm going to pay $20,000 if anybody can refer me a successful candidate, and essentially turned his network and his extended network, because we obviously saw it and we were in the extended network, into recruiters for hire. So, and I think you mentioned, let's talk about the emotions that were responding there, and then we'll get to how we feel about it, because I want to get your thoughts. But there were a lot of angry individuals, I'll say, in the comments. And if we could generalize where the anger was coming from, where do you think it was coming from?
Yeah, I mean, I did a quick scroll on it, but it seems like a lot of recruiters, I think they felt a little bit like, oversimplified. I think just, I think it's that easy, just refer someone. That's the theme I thought I found in the comments. But yeah, I mean, it definitely created a lot of emotions.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think like people felt threatened, and like recruiters kind of were angry about that. And I kind of like that because my viewpoint is like the old school recruitment mentality is ownership. Like I own a network of candidates that if you want to hire me, you can have access to this network of candidates. And, I know the best people to kind of put you in touch. And that was being threatened because now it's like, well, everybody knows everybody. So like, why do I have to pay you an agency when I can just pay anybody to expand my reach and get kind of more people engaged on it, which also brings another point that we talk about. And I think earlier perception of recruiting is more is more. We need to cast the widest net possible, and we need to meet with as many people as possible to exhaust the search to know we found the right individual. And it's always this, it breeds this more is more. And even when you meet someone and you like them, it's, do you have anybody else that I can compare them to? And I think this probably bred that, because I'm sure this individual that sent that out there probably got smashed with referrals in their inbox. And like, I'm sure they got a glimpse of being what a recruiter was like. They probably had hundreds, if not thousands of people that were kind of floating in there. But, this is a long-winded question as I get, but do you think that this brought to light some of those older, traditional viewpoints on recruiting, and how do you think those have changed?
Yeah, I mean, like similar to what you just said, the first thing I thought about was his poor inbox, and it was similar like when we're speaking with clients and they've had a job posting up and they've got 5,000 applicants, and now on top of their full-time job they have to sift through that, and 90% of the people have zero fit to what they're after, and I think something like that, I was just, this is going to cause just such a storm. And that's why I felt like it was maybe more of a content piece for him posting and getting engagement than actually trying to find someone that way, because it seemed way too chaotic. But I think you're right in terms of the candidates, like in ownership, like it's not about just knowing people, or these are my stable of candidates that I have that no one else has access to. So he did open that up, and maybe that's where the feelings of certain people were feeling like, well, you can't just do that.
Yeah, and I think you can. I think it's great. Like, I think it's
Mm-hmm.
From a marketing standpoint, if the purpose is noise and to get attention, I mean, we're talking about it. It got a lot of engagement. It served its purpose. Like, people were aware that this individual was hiring, and certainly there was incentive for people to go and pay attention to that. Now, a lot of people may not know, but Brian actually hired me back in 2009 as a recruiter when he was, beat me to the industry by was it a year, just under a year, the kind of experience. But
Around that, yeah.
how have you seen the role of a recruiter change? I mean, that was 2009 when you started, and now we're talking, 20, I always forget the year, 2022. Yeah. 20. Yeah. I think
2022.
Yeah. So how has it changed? Like, and how has the role of a recruiter evolved over that time?
Yeah, from my experience, and it's not the same for everyone, but I feel like what we've both seen is, it used to be a speed game, a numbers game, um, very impersonal game. And I think, it depends who you choose to work with and how you work. And I think we've made the conscious decision that's just not, we're not built for that. Trying to make more meaningful connections and work directly with hiring managers to understand their story and amplify that, as opposed to just throwing resumes into a machine against a million different companies and hoping some orange juice comes out at the other end. I think that's, the older way of thinking of it. And that this post really reminded me of that in a really funny way. And it was like, oh, like I said, the inbox is just going to be overflowing. And how do you even begin? Right.
Yeah. I think, like, even if we go back in time, and I certainly wasn't, recruiting pre-internet days or before then, but just talking to folks, I mean, they literally had physical like filing cabinets in their office. And like, a differentiator for recruitment firms was like, they knew who to contact. Like, they had resumes, like they sorted them, in their paper database. And then we matured to the point where they created electronic versions of that. And like, you have these companies that still claim that they have access to people that nobody has access to. And I think those are the individuals that are threatened by things like this, because they're saying, like, we've built up decades of a network that we now call our value prop, and you're blowing this up by kind of immobilizing everybody to essentially do that. And there's no way we can compete with a network when you're kind of immobilizing LinkedIn as a network. Like, LinkedIn's the biggest professional network. No agency has the size and breadth that LinkedIn does. And this individual took it upon himself to essentially make LinkedIn his own database. So I think the threat comes from organizations that still claim that their database is a value differentiator. And we hear this all the time. You know, people asking us, like, you know, what's your specialization, and who do you know? And we're of the mindset, like, we all have access to the same people. You all have the same tools now. It's not about access, it's about messaging. Like, how do you reach the right candidate at the right time with the right message is recruitment. And, you know, it's not just about having a job that it used to at one point to sell, because that's how people are going to pay attention to, because everybody's looking for a job. When everybody's looking for one, having that open requirement isn't a value prop anymore. It's how are you going to sell it? Like, you become marketing firms. Like, you become, like, from the physical network of filing cabinet of databases to evolve to get people to pay attention to you with messaging that's going to make them interested in the job.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, and that's the flip side of all this. As much as I love the you know, the emotion that this caused, was thinking about, you know, opening it up that way and saying, like, if you know someone, go ahead, you know, feeling like there's a lack of thought about candidate experience and employer brand. Like, you know, would you open up your network and say, hey, if you can sell our product to any client, go at it, and we'll give you 20 grand or whatever it is. I don't think people would. I think they'd be worried about the way they're positioning their product, the way they're treating their clients. You know, maybe it works out and they make a sale and they pay, but more often than not, I think brands and employers would be not let something like that happen. So why would we open it up to candidates and top talent? What if they have a bad experience or whatever it may be? I just don't think it's putting your best foot forward by just making something so chaotic and off the cuff. If it's not meaningful, like you said, the messaging at the right time, the right place, then, you know, there's a missed opportunity there.
Well, and I think that brings up another good point about kind of understanding the candidate experience and designing a system that's sustainable and scalable. Like, you know, this approach, this tactic, will it work this one time? Maybe. Will it work every time? Probably not. Is it really sustainable to do this every single time? So to your mindset, it's the same as making a sale, right? Like, salespeople, you know, you could do everything wrong and still make a sale. Does that mean that it's a good sales process that you're going to use every single time? Not necessarily. So you need to understand what is the candidate experience and what is your process to attract talent. And it's a bigger question than just transactionally, we have an empty role, we need to scramble and do whatever we can to do it. And I don't blame people in the business, and we've talked this before, because hiring is such a small part of their job, right? Like, we do this every day and we geek out about this all the time because that's what we do for a living. But like, all of our clients, 5% of their day, 10%, if they're growing, is dedicated to recruitment. The rest is doing their job.
Yeah.
So how do you design like to your point, like, how, taking into account the employer brand, like, you know, where do you even start with that? I mean, it just seems so daunting.
And you're competing against, especially with the nature of remote work, you're competing against these giant companies who have, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars spend every year into their brand and their employer brand and onboarding process. That how do you begin to compete when you're, you know, putting a bad process on something like that? It cheapens the experience, and you're ultimately not going to attract. I think where you're missing out on are those really passive candidates, right? And I think a lot of times some of the best candidates are head down working, and they need to be persuaded or shown a message or messaging about, you know, why they should make a change and be inspired, as opposed to getting their resume thrown around or sent a random job description. I just don't think that's going to inspire the right people a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point about employer brands. Like, let's face it, I mean, Google's got one of the stronger employer brands we know, and they've been focused on investing and building that for decades. Like, what do we know about working at Google? You get to solve the biggest problems with the smartest people, and like a healthy, I don't want to say unlimited, but pretty much unlimited resources to tackle those problems, right? Like, that's why people want to go and work there, to do all of those things. That's their employer brand. So when you're competing, that's why, you know, organizations have a hard time competing with Google, but it's also an advantage when they don't know your employer brand, because you get to create it. You can control the narrative and create your own. And a tactic like this doesn't really say too much. Like, if you reached out to me, it was like, hey, Mike, I got this job. Like, you should like just, or if you just forward it to me on LinkedIn, we're like, go. Like, what are you telling me about it? Other than the fact that I know you're going to get 20 grand by putting me in there, right? So it doesn't give me much to go off of.
Yeah, it's just really chaotic. I think, like I said, I understand why there were a lot of feelings. I mean, I don't think it's a bad or a good thing. It's just a really interesting way to go about things.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I think, would you employ this tactic?
No, personally, I wouldn't. Like I said, I think it did its job for what maybe they were trying to get out of it, but I don't think it, like you said, it's not scalable. You know, would I have a referral program internally? Sure. I think that's, you know, referrals are some of the best sources for hires. If you've got some employees that can refer, great. But I don't have the time in my day to open up to LinkedIn to find me something and then just collect all those emails. That would just drive me crazy.
Yeah. I mean, if I was in a pinch, maybe, well, like, if I wanted to be loud and get a lot of attention, yeah, like, maybe the purpose wasn't actually to hire. It was just a guerrilla marketing campaign for the company in this role, right? Like, if it was looking at shocking the market and getting attention, sure, right? Like, but I think in terms of a sustainable, like, I'm curious, and I really want to know. We should go back and find, like, I want to know how that worked out. I want to know if they were able to find someone and how painful that was. Maybe we're wrong. Like, maybe the experience was lovely. And I'm open to that. Like, I'm one kind of like you, where I don't have any negative emotions attached to it. I'm more curious, like, to see, like, how that worked out, versus kind of feeling like I'm threatened or my value is not seen. Yeah, I'm curious. I'd be open to trying it for sure. Maybe we'll try it next time.
Yeah. I'm down.
Maybe we'll put a bounty out on the next time to see.
We'll post it on your account so you can collect the.
You'll let me deal with the requests coming in. Ah, sweet.
Yeah,
I'll
be here for emotional support.
I just nominated myself for sorting through a tsunami of emails that are going to come my way. So I guess, you know, as we kind of close things off here, anything else in terms of, you know, we came in kind of wanting to describe the situation. You know, you and I both feel curious about how this would work as a strategy, understanding where the anger was coming from, but saying that it's not necessarily justified. Like, you shouldn't feel threatened for people trying to innovate and do things differently. Like, I feel like that's part of any industry, is like trying it to see if it works. Maybe it does. Maybe we need to be doing this strategy more, or maybe there's an in-between. And I think, you know, you've talked about it before. The role of a recruiter is not just resumes, right? Like, it's not just throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks. And I think that's what this strategy is just sheer numbers of people.
Yeah. Yeah, it hurts my brain a little bit to think about how it would work on the back end of all of that. Just like you said, like reaching out to people saying like, "Hey, I know this person who's hiring. Like, send me your resume." Like, there's just nothing there. There's no story. There's no angle. So sure, you're gonna get interest, I guess, from people who are really looking, or, you know, have no interest in understanding what the role's about before applying. But I can't imagine it working out too well. Who
Well,
knows?
and that's
Maybe,
why,
like I said, maybe we're wrong.
but that's why personal referrals are the most effective way at hiring,
Yeah,
right? Is because they know
for
you,
sure.
right? Like that's how
They
I
know
got my
you. They're
job
in the job.
here.
Yeah, if they're in the company or the organization, they know what it's like. They have an idea of this personality and if it would fit with the team. I mean, yeah, there's nothing better. So I think an internal referral program, amazing. And outsourcing that, I don't know how much that works.
Maybe this is for another episode, but remember the one, and I forget it was years ago, and I don't know if they still do it. There was an internal referral program that we heard of where it's like it was a healthy fee. I think it was like $5,000 for like if you can refer someone to the job, but if they don't make it past the probation period, then you lose your job too. Remember that?
I don't remember that. Sounds like
Yeah.
Survivor or something.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like nobody's going to refer anyone. Like, how well do you know this person? Like, do you really feel confident
Yeah.
they're going to do a good job? Because now your job's on the line if they don't make it. So, I can't imagine that being successful. I won't disclose who the company was, but I can't
Squid
imagine they're
Games.
still doing it. Yeah, exactly. All right, man. Well, I feel like we've come to the end of our rant for this week.
Yeah.
It was fun. Like I think it was cool to explore this, and like I said, maybe we'll do a follow up when we can find out some more info to see how this actually worked out
Yeah.
for
I'm
the
sure
individual.
people are still angrily posting on it right now, so we'll try to find that again.
A lot of keyword search warriors out there on the recruitment side that are really panicking about their job. I'd be more worried about the robots than kind of crowdsourcing recruiting, but that's just me.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks for jumping on this week, and for everyone that's tuning in, we'll see you next Thursday for a new episode.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
Cheers.